At 8:15 a.m., the city was alive. Trams were moving. Children were walking to school. Doctors were beginning their morning rounds. No sirens, no warning. Then the sky turned white. Not fire, not lightning, something brighter than the sun itself. In less than 1 second, a single human invention erased an entire city. This is not a metaphor. This is not exaggeration. This happened in Hiroshima. And 3 days later, it happened again in Nagasaki. What followed did not just end a war. It changed the meaning of power, fear, and survival for Europe and for the world. The World on the Edge, 1945. By the summer of 1945, the world was collapsing under its own violence. Europe was already broken. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble. Millions were dead, millions more displaced. But the war was not over. In the Pacific, Japan continued to fight despite overwhelming losses. Every island invasion cost tens of thousands of lives. Military planners feared that a full invasion of Japan would result in catastrophic casualties on both sides. Inside government rooms, one terrifying question dominated every discussion. How do you end a war when surrender seems impossible? The answer had been secretly prepared years earlier. The project that was never meant to be used. It was called the Manhattan Project, a scientific effort so secret that even the Vice President of the United States did not know its full scope. Physicists who once studied stars and atoms were now building a weapon based on a radical idea that splitting the atom could release unimaginable energy. The project was born out of fear that Nazi Germany might build such a weapon first. Germany failed, but the weapon was completed anyway. By July 1945, humanity possessed something entirely new, a bomb capable of destroying a city in seconds. The question was no longer, can we build it? The question was, should we use it? Why Hiroshima was chosen. Hiroshima was not a random target. It was a military logistics center. It had not been heavily bombed. Its geography made it ideal for measuring destruction. In other words, it was perfect for observation. The bomb assigned to Hiroshima was called Little Boy. It used uranium-235 and had never been tested before. There was no rehearsal, no second chance, only real people in a real city. August 6, 1945, 8:15 a.m. The bomb detonated approximately 600 meters above the city. The flash was instant. At ground zero, temperatures exceeded 4,000 degrees Celsius. Human bodies closest to the explosion were vaporized, not burned, not crushed, simply erased. Buildings collapsed outward like paper models. Glass became shrapnel. Skin melted. Within minutes, fires merged into a single firestorm. By nightfall, over 70,000 people were dead. Many of them were civilians. Many were children. But the bomb was not finished. Radiation, the silent killer. Survivors initially believed they had escaped death. They were wrong. Days later, hair began falling out. Skin developed dark burns without heat exposure. Internal bleeding appeared with no visible wounds. Doctors were powerless. Radiation sickness was something medicine had never encountered before. Weeks turned into months, months into years. Cancers emerged. Birth defects appeared in children who had not yet been conceived at the time of the bombing. The bomb continued killing long after the explosion. 3 days of silence. After Hiroshima, Japan did not immediately surrender. Some leaders did not fully understand what had happened. Others refused to believe a single bomb could do such damage. So 3 days later, a second weapon was deployed. This one was different. August 9th, 1945, Nagasaki. The bomb was called Fat Man. It used plutonium and was more powerful than Little Boy. Clouds obscured the original target, forcing the bomber to redirect. Nagasaki lay in a valley. That geography reduced but did not prevent the devastation. The explosion killed around 40,000 people instantly. Factories disappeared, churches collapsed, entire neighborhoods vanished. This time, there was no doubt. Japan surrendered days later. The war was over. But something else had begun. Celebrations erupted across Europe. The war that had destroyed an entire generation was finally finished. But beneath the relief, another emotion spread quietly: fear. Because if one bomb could do this, what would 2 do? Or 10? Or hundreds? Europe understood the implication. Europe grasped the meaning of Hiroshima faster than anyone. This was a continent that had already seen what modern war could do. Now it understood something worse. Future wars might not have survivors at all. Power had shifted, not to armies, not to numbers, to technology. Europe enters the nuclear age. When news of Hiroshima and Nagasaki reached Europe, it landed differently than in America. Europe had just emerged from total destruction. Entire capitals lay in ruins. Families had survived bombings, occupations, and genocide. And now, a new truth became impossible to ignore. Everything Europe had endured could be repeated, faster, cleaner, and without warning. Military analysts across Britain, France, and the rest of Western Europe understood one thing immediately. Traditional defense no longer mattered. No bunker was deep enough. No city was large enough to absorb this kind of blow. The atomic bomb had erased the idea of a safe homeland. The moral shockwave. The bombs did not only destroy cities, they shattered assumptions. For centuries, war had limits, unwritten ones, but limits nonetheless. Armies fought armies. Civilians suffered, but were not the primary target. Hiroshima changed that permanently. Here, civilians were not collateral damage. They were the experiment. And that realization haunted Europe's intellectuals, politicians, and scientists. Philosophers questioned whether technological progress had outpaced moral responsibility. Scientists asked whether knowledge should have boundaries. There was no consensus, only unease. The survivors the world didn't want to see. In Hiroshima and Nagasaki, survivors struggled not only with illness, but with rejection. They were called hibakusha. Many were refused jobs, marriage proposals were withdrawn, people feared radiation was contagious. These survivors carried invisible scars that followed them across decades. Some dedicated their lives to warning the world. Others chose silence. Their testimonies described something no military report ever could. A city where rivers filled with burned bodies. Skin hanging from arms like rags. People begging for water, then dying moments later. These were not battlefield deaths. They were human deaths, stripped of heroism. From victory to anxiety. While celebrations echoed through Europe in 1945, governments were already preparing for the next threat. Hiroshima did not bring peace. It introduced deterrence. The logic was brutal and simple. If everyone has the bomb, no one can afford to use it. This thinking shaped the post-war world. Within years, the Soviet Union tested its own atomic weapon. Then Britain, then France. Europe became the center of the most dangerous standoff in human history. Living under the shadow. Throughout the late 1940s and 1950s, European cities adapted to a terrifying possibility. Air raid sirens were redesigned, not for bombers, but for nuclear attack. Schools conducted drills that assumed survival was possible, even when it wasn't. Governments published instructions on how to survive an atomic blast. Most of it was fiction. People knew it. Governments knew it. But pretending control was better than admitting helplessness. The Cold War reality. This fear crystallized during the era later known as the Cold War. Two superpowers faced each other across Europe, armed with weapons capable of ending civilization multiple times over. Missiles were placed on European soil. Targets were drawn around European capitals. Europe was not the decision-maker, it was the potential battlefield. And Hiroshima was the proof of what those weapons could do. The doctrine of fear. The world settled into a fragile balance called mutually assured destruction. The idea was not to win, it was to terrify. Hiroshima had demonstrated that destruction did not need armies, only authorization. For decades, peace existed, not because humanity became wiser, but because it became afraid of itself. The question that never went away. Even today, historians remain divided. Some argue the bomb ended the war early and saved lives that would have been lost in a prolonged invasion. Others argue Japan was already near surrender and that the bombs were as much political messages as military actions. Europe, especially, continues to wrestle with this question because it understands what total war looks like. There is no clear answer, only consequences. Why Hiroshima still matters today. Hiroshima is not just history, it is a warning encoded into reality. Every modern nuclear policy, every arms treaty, every emergency meeting traces its logic back to August 1945. The cities taught humanity a lesson it never wanted to learn. Technology without restraint is not progress, it is extinction. The final truth. Hiroshima and Nagasaki did not end violence. They redefined it. They showed that humans could create something faster than their ability to control it, that intelligence does not guarantee wisdom, and that survival sometimes depends not on strength, but restraint. The world still lives in the aftermath of that morning at 8:15 a.m., and every day that passes without another flash is not victory, it is borrowed time. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki no longer burn. The ruins have been rebuilt. The world has moved forward. But the shadow of that morning still follows us, because once humanity proved it could erase itself in seconds, every day without another flash became a choice between power and restraint, between fear and responsibility. History is not just something we remember, it is something we live with. And the story of Hiroshima is not about the past, it is a warning written into our future. This is MindBurst Universe, where history, science, and uncomfortable truths collide. If this story made you pause, question, or see the world differently, subscribe, because the next story is already unfolding.